What's going on, Juneteenth family?
I have to take the lead because if I don't now, when will I do it?
These are all dance groups mixes from since 90.
And risks are important. Risk creates results.
Make sure that you surround yourself with not only the word, but with positivity.
Foremost, for having me on for lunch and learn.
We start off by wearing all of the hats. Pun intended right there.
But we start special needs children and civilians. I have over 30 years plus experience as a quality professional.
We basically reconstructing what we took part in deconstruct. All the street maintenance. That's how we came up with street maintenance.
I almost had to deal with MCA Records at the age of 19.
Wait a
I also partner with other daycares. We're not in a competition here. We're not in a competition.
There we go. What's going on, Juneteenth family? Another episode of the Lunch and Learn. I am here, your host, Kiara, aka MBG, and I'm excited. I am excited today, as always, because today we're going from legacy to liberation. Okay, we're talking about the unveiling journey of African descent in golf. You heard me right, in golf. Who am I talking about? Who is my guest today? Kelley Pierre. He is a trailblazer of golf. He is also the CEO and founder of All Access Golf. Kelley is dedicated to breaking barriers and increasing accessibility to underrepresented communities in the sport. So we're going to dig deep in golf today. With a background in social and behavioral science and an MBA in finance, Kelley's passion for golf was ignited under the mentorship of Buddy Cooper, a Marine Park golf course, at Marine Park Golf Course. And with funding and since funding All Access Golf in 2018, he's partnered with so many different organizations like Google and the Black NBA Association to promote the diversity and the inclusion of golf. I can't wait to sit across from Kelley today. Please, let's bring Kelley to the stage.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you, MBG, for having me.
Thank you for being here. Listen, I'm excited to learn something today. Okay, I'm excited. I mean, I've hit a ball or two, but I don't know nothing. You know, I'm here to grasp it all today. So I know you have an amazing presentation for us, but before we jump into that, I just want to start off by just letting you give us a little bit of background, your upbringing, and how do we get to everything that we're going to get into today.
Cool. So a little bit about me. I'm from Brooklyn, Brownsville, never ran, never will.
Come on.
I'm in East New York. So, basically just it's right next door to Brownsville. Active in the community and, really just passionate to spread the love of golf, in our communities.
Definitely. I'm from Bed-Stuy, so I know it's a Brooklyn thing. I know we come with the talent for sure. Yeah. So was it always something like as a kid growing up? Was golf always your interest? How did we get into that?
So honestly, I don't think I didn't really have that exposure, right? And that's why I'm really passionate about creating that exposure early on because I played football, right? 04 to 05, played for Sheepshead Bay, won the city championship, quarterback, back in my heyday, right? And when you look at it in terms of just overall, the sports that we normally grow up around, specifically, in areas like Brooklyn or New York in general, it's really football, basketball, baseball, and sometimes really soccer. So just and golf was something I came to, and honestly, I did it because I was in a point in my life where I was just like looking for a job, right? And I was, oh yeah, I know this sport. This is where the money is. So I am get in this and like talk my way into something. And I just ended up falling in love with the game. And then I was thinking, why did it take me this long for me to start playing? So that's what really led me into golf.
Well, I'm intrigued to learn all about it. I'm gonna let you jump into your presentation, and then we'll be right back so we can chat some more.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yes.
So, this presentation will really focus on just the overall, contributions that, like people from, the African like diaspora have made to the game of golf, because it doesn't really get spoken about as much, specifically when it comes to the overall perception of the game as well. So like on the next slide, you kind of see like just how we're gonna like navigate. We'll talk about key influential like figures. Next slide. So just overall about us, my name is Kelley Pierre and I represent All Access Golf. And, we really aim to increase the relatability, visibility, and accessibility for minorities in the sport. And on the next slide, you'll see that, we really talk about like the double consciousness, right? So W.E. Du Bois has this, phrase in which, he talks about, basically, at that time he, referred to Negroes, but it was living in these two like different spaces, right? And that double consciousness also is kind of reflected in the song Black Republican by Nas and Jay-Z, right? Where it's like, you're from one area, right? And then you start to feel as if like you kind of might not fit in. But then also when you're in like different areas, or just areas in which like it's an overall new environment, right, you also feel as if you don't fit in. And it heavily ties into the double consciousness that W.E. Du Bois spoke about, because it was in relation to just being like an American, right? And I think that those are really important, because even when I was learning the game and like just playing, there was that feel of that double consciousness that people from African diaspora normally go through, right? And I think about my just overall my education, right, in terms of learning from Black intellectuals like Huey P. Newton, Colin Kaepernick, Assata Shakur, like the list like goes on, right? And they had really revolutionary ideas, right, that really cause change, right? And it wasn't always well received, because it shook foundations that were set in place, and they were set in place for a reason. So on the next slide, there's actually something that I just want to read out, and it ties into the double consciousness. And this is from a New York Times article back in like 1984, right? And it was written by Michael Dixon, and he wrote on his pieces called "On Being Black and Loving Golf," right? And he ends it with this. He says that, "As for me, my feelings about golf, the sport and the game, continue to be mixed. The sport's ruling powers profess an interest in seeing that golf continues to grow. How they plan to achieve that growth while continuing to maintain an exclusionary attitude towards certain sectors of society is a mystery. one that puzzles and angers me. In a way, I'd like to say forget it and never play again. That isn't likely because I've missed the game terribly. But if I did, golf would lose one of the best friends it never knew it had. Right. And I think that this is very powerful because this was written in 1984 and here we are in 2004. Right. And I still feel that, it applies. Right. There's definitely, programs that have been, created, but there's still that, exclusionary feel to the game. Right. And this is why, I feel that even just naming my company All Access, right, golf is really to like chip away at that. Right. So on the next slide, I'll just talk about how I really got into golf. I'm from Brownsville houses, and that's 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 my that's where I grew up, right? But also that sign is I actually got that from it fell off from one of the like apartment buildings, and I just kept it, right? And I spoke about playing football when I was in high school, and also playing football while I was a teenager, and just the overall exposure. And I feel that this also translates into the importance of having like a Black coach, right? Because one of the people who were very influential, there was a time in which I was like, you know what, forget it. I'm not playing the game anymore because it didn't really resonate with me. And on the next slide, I'll talk about, the coach who's very, influential in me going back into the game, and his name was Buddy Cooper, right? So he was actually he was a coach at the first owned and operated 18-hole golf course in the United States, which was in Sickerville, New Jersey. He was the former director of instruction at Bronx Golf Center and former golf coach at Marine Park Golf Course. And he was really pivotal in me coming back into the game, because he called me and he just wanted to check in because I was going to golf course, like constantly, always, working on my game. Then all of a sudden I just stopped. And, I spoke with him, and I was just like, I feel like, golf it's not really for me, right? Again, tying back into like that double consciousness. And then, what he did that was very pivotal was tell me, the history in terms of, Black contributions, especially within the game of golf, right? And just on the following slides, you'll just see like some. So when we start off talking about the Black history in golf, we have to talk about, we're just teeing it up, pun intended, right? But Dr. George Grant actually invented the golf tee, right? He had the first, patent, for the golf tee. He was also the second Black graduate at, Harvard's dental school, and he didn't really intend to make money off of, his patent. He was just a golfer who enjoyed playing the game. Prior to the tee being developed, they would actually tee up their ball like mounds of sand, right? And this would take a long time. So he made it more efficient, in which you would just stick a wooden tee into the ground and then be able to tee up your ball from there. And this also helped to increase the pace of play, right? On the following slide too, you'll see that Dewey Brown was, the first African-American PGA professional in 1928, right? 1934, right, which was 6 years after his membership, the PGA implemented a Caucasian-only clause, right, and this held up for almost 30 years, right, where and it ended in 1961, right? And the thing is that we talk about, how we really look to see how this affected the overall perception of the game. And what, I really feel is that, part of the reason why there's this perception of golf being a white man's sport is heavily tied to, PGA clause, right? Even though that there were leagues that started, right? Sometimes, like when you're constantly told something, right, you can also internalize it, right? And then you'll start to see yourself as if it's not really for you, because this is what they've kind of conditioned you to think, right? So about like Dewey Brown, he created golf clubs for, President Warren G. Harding. And then he also purchased a golf course, which was the Cedar River golf course in 1947, right? So on the next slide, you'll see that now we talk about like John Shippen, right? And John Shippen played, in the second U.S. Open and placed sixth, right? He scored an 11 on the 13th hole because he got into a sand trap. And this was before they made sand wedges, right? So, and that caused him, he lost by 7 strokes, but he scored on 11 specifically on that hole. So if that did not happen, he would have definitely, he could have definitely like won the tournament and also been the first black person to, win the tournament, right? He's also the first African American golf professional as well, right? And from like just the information on John Shippen, there's plenty of history that also surrounds him, right? And I would just encourage I would encourage everyone to check out Blacks in Golf, the story of Shady Rest and John Shippen, which is on YouTube. And on that that event, we actually had kids who grew up at Shady Rest, which was the first owned and operated country club like in the nation, right? So and then we talk about Joseph Bartholomew, right? He was the first African American to build a golf course, right? He was never allowed to play the course that he built because of his skin color, right? And then he also built the golf course. This is like really amazing, right? He did it during the nighttime, right? So that people won't know what he was up to, right? And there was also regarding like him building the golf course, when he was building the golf course, there were members who were challenging him, basically saying, what's taking so long in terms of building the golf course. And when they actually saw the amount of work that he was able to, complete, they actually, of course, they praised him for, the work that he did. But I think they were also advocating that, like he gets paid more. And it's like, oh, now you get me. Now you kind of just switch sides. But this goes to show the amount of work that, he put in, the golf industry, right? So on the following slide too, you'll see, Althea Gibson. Althea Gibson is known for, her accomplishments, regarding like winning 2 Wimbledon titles, but she was also like the first African American to join the LPGA Tour in 1964, right? She, was the tour's top 50 money winners for 5 years, right? And, like she's, of course, regarded as a tennis great, but she's also a golf great as well, right? And on the following slide too, you'll see that next slide. You'll see that, you know, another person, another woman who was a trailblazer in, you know, golf was Anne Gregory, right? So she was nicknamed the Queen of Negro Golf, right? During that time, there was a tournament, or, you know, overall tour that was held. And, you know, to find out more about that tour, I would also encourage you to check out Uneven Fairways, which is also on our YouTube channel as well, which talks about the United Golfers Association, which was the only predominantly black golf tour, right? So she didn't pick up a club until she was in her 30s. Her husband actually played, and that's how she got into the game. And then also, you know, she played like on a public golf course. She won 4 UGA titles. But here's the thing that's really impressive. She won nearly 300 tournaments, right? And you can see, like, just by this photo, this woman has stripes, like serious stripes at that, right? So she was really, really good, right? And on the next slide, you'll see Bill Spiller, right? Bill Spiller, another trailblazer in the game, very influential in getting the PGA clause like removed, right? And the thing is that with the PGA clause being removed, they didn't technically. What ended up happening was that they, you know, he took them to court, and when they basically, you know, came to him and was like, all right, you know, we'll remove the clause, and then so then, you know, he agreed, and what happened is that they then started to call golf tournaments invitationals, right? In order to really basically do away with the clause, but it was more like on an invite only basis, right? And of course, the people who were excluded were, you know, people of color, right? He pushed for, you know, integration in, you know, California's public courses. He also held up a golf tournament on the first tee because they wouldn't let him in the tournament, right? So in this photo, this is when he was actually going to go play in a tournament, and then, you know, he was told that he couldn't play simply because of the color of his skin, right? And then on the following slide, you'll see Ted Rhodes, right? Ted Rhodes was another, you know, trailblazer in the game. You know, they nicknamed him Rags because, you know, he was known for, you know, his fancy clothes. You could see, even though the picture is black and white, you know, my man, he was definitely fly, right? So he won over 150 United Golfers Association tournaments. And then the PGA removed the clause, but invented invitationals, as, you know, like I had mentioned earlier, right? So on the next slide, you see Pete Brown, right? Pete Brown was the first African-American to win a PGA tournament, right? He played on the PGA Tour for 17 seasons and had 14 professional wins, right? Now in Uneven Fairways, they had an interview with him, as well as some people who are coming up in the presentation. And, you know, they basically just have interviews with them and, you know, really talk about how their experience was, you know, both in, you know, the PGA as well as, you know, the UGA. So on the next slide, you'll see Calvin Peete, right? So Calvin Peete won 12 PGA tournaments. And this is what's really impressive, right? he won the PGA's driving accuracy for 10 consecutive years, right? That's very impressive and very, very hard to do, right? The person who was able to break that streak was Tiger Woods, right? And then what also made him so accurate was that when he was 12, he fell from a cherry tree near his grandmother's house in I put Haiti, but it is a part in the South. I think it's North Carolina, and it's called Haiti, right? Which was really named Haiti because of the influence of Haitian independence, right? So Calvin P is from he's from like the U.S., right? But he was that happened in by his grandmother's house in Haiti, right? Which is a part within the U.S., right? And he was also nicknamed Mr. Accuracy. So on the following slide, you'll see Charlie Sifford, right? So he was the first African American to play on the PGA Tour, right? So he was like the first professional because it was Joe Louis, the heavyweight champion, who actually was first admitted to play, and then he became like the first African American. Charlie Sifford became the first African American to play on the PGA Tour, like as a professional, right? And then he's the first, African American to be inducted into the World Golf Hall of Fame. And I think it's right now it's him and Tiger Woods who are like inducted into the Hall of Fame. I definitely have strong feelings that Calvin P, as well as many others, should be included in the World Golf Hall of Fame as well. He won 5 straight National Negro Opens, which was under the UGA. He won twice on the PGA Tour, and in this photo, he received the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Barack Obama in 2014. Right. So on the following slide, you'll see, James Black. Right now, James Black. I had the privilege to know him. He recently passed away, and the knowledge that he had of the game, it was really on a level that I would say it's similar to how a mystic knows spirituality, and he would always say that golf is spiritual, right? And I completely agree with him as well. And the way that he learned the game from young, and he also would hustle other golfers, right? Especially those who were who didn't know who he was, right? And because of that, he was able to make $4 million in 1 year just hustling other golfers who thought that they could beat him, right? And and that documentary Uneven Fairways really talks about that, and also interviews Mr. Black, and the impact that he made on the UGA tour, as well as playing on the PGA, right? So he has 33 hole-in-ones, right? Now, a hole-in-one is something in golf that is highly sought after, very rare to even make, but he has 33 of them, right? So to put this into perspective, and 12 came in when he was competing, right? And to put that into perspective, I think Tiger Woods has about like 19, right? So that goes to show you like the level that he was really able to play on. And there's this project that I've just been like working on, and it's called like Golf Grios, and he was actually the first person that we did an interview with, and we just really got to pick his brain and like understand like how he sees the game. And it's on our YouTube channel as well, and it's called Know Thyself. So on the next slide, you could definitely stay connected. Our Instagram is All Access Golf, website is allaccessgolf.llc.com, and as well as you could subscribe to our YouTube channel. There we have videos of either interviews or just some documentaries regarding just the African influence in the game of golf.
I had to take some notes over here. I had to take notes because I was over here in amazement, like wow, like just and you don't know what you don't know. So I'm not even gonna say the ignorance to not knowing, but I had no idea a lot of this information. I was really like, oh my God, like, but just to start at the beginning, talking about the double consciousness.
Yeah.
And like, that's so real. Just the Black Republicans, just the topic of that. And as Black people, for us to really understand that we are the game changers. Like, we create the bar. We set the bar. We are right. Like this is it revolves around everything that we do. And I'm like, oh my God. Just you talking about James Black just now, I'm like, he's the perfect example of that. Like, I'm okay, cool. You don't think that I'm capable of this. I'm going to, and I'm gonna let it speak for itself. But just being brilliant to that extent of understanding that technically, they say I'm not supposed to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Let me, less is more sometimes. Let me not speak on it. Let me just show you what I'm capable of. It's so much legacy and so much honor and things that you were sharing. I wrote down, statistics, just coming from inner cities and, urban neighborhoods, quote unquote, and, being from the hood. It's like, yeah, you ain't supposed to know about this. You wasn't never supposed to know about golf. You wasn't never supposed to, and I had no idea about the PGA clause and that time frame. Just like you said, that changed the game within itself, because had that not been, we would be talking about so many other individuals that were able to have such an impact. And I'm like, when you talk about this country sometimes, and we could take this conversation to a whole nother level, but it's just like the setback of now we gotta stop that. Oh, they trying to do this now. Oh, we gotta put a stop to that. And it's like, yo, when you just, almost never take no for an answer, if I could say it in that simplest form, like, it's nothing that we can't do. It's nothing that you can't do. It's nothing that you can't accomplish once you put your mind to it. And I love that you mentioned, like, internalizing the thoughts of what people put out there. Like, oh no, you can't. Almost like you don't even imagine that for yourself, because it's been fed to you over time that you're not, your life is supposed to be standard to this bar. You follow this path of go to school, get a job. That's it. That's what it's supposed to be. Or, the limitation of what you're exposed to. We're gonna give you basketball, we're gonna give you football, we're gonna give possibly baseball, but
Yeah.
sports like golf, sports like hockey, sports like
Mm.
it's like, oh, it's almost unheard of in the sense of like schools that have that program implemented, or programs to have this exposure and accessibility for kids to learn. It's almost like you just gotta want to do it. And
Right.
I love that your program and your business is all access. I love that name, and I wanted to get into that too. That you just share more about how business has evolved since you started. Of course, just from hearing you speak, I could almost grasp what the inspiration was behind it, but I want you to speak on that a little bit as well.
Yeah, and honestly, it's like, I think that it's reflective of like of being told, not only golf, right? But it's being told as if, are you from Brownsville, right? And it's like you can't you can't be smart, right? You can't read, you don't know how to talk clearly, right? And it's things like that that builds this anger, right? But it's also the anger. It's like, how do we now redirect it for a way in which it's constructive, right?
Yeah.
And that anger is really passion, right? Because now it's like there's this like phrase in the Bible, right, that I really like, and it says there's basically like word of, and I'm not putting myself on no levels, I'm like where Jesus is or anything, right? But it says, what good, somebody questioned and said, what good comes from Nazareth, right? And that's like basically because they were hearing about Jesus and the stuff that he's doing and stuff, and I said, then they're like, nothing good comes from there, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is that when you really grow up in like these environments, right, I think it, if anything, it gives you a solid foundation, right? So that you can think critically, right? You can actually avoid certain pitfalls and things like that, right? So if anything, you get exposed to this as an early age, you're like, oh, I've seen this before, right? I know how to move in a room full of vultures.
Come on,
right? You know what I'm saying? Yes. So it's all right, cool. Like I could play dumb, right? But I can also be playing you, right?
Yeah.
By doing that, you got me?
Yeah.
Just like how Mr. Black was hustling them and made $4 million.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I love that. I love that, and it's like you said, is so real. And when you learn the switch, like just speaking to Jay, I love that he always say like I walk in every room as myself, because I'm not going to change my voice. I'm not going to change my character. I'm going to apply what I know to this situation right here in every room, in every aspect. And when you learn that switch and learn how to apply things to benefit you, it's no turning back. It's like, okay, cool. I already know how to move in this situation. I already know how I can advance, how I can, apply this and apply the pressure to turn my passion into like my purpose, So I love all of it, and just thinking of what the future holds in golf. Because now, okay, cool. Representation matters. It always matters, and I always say that. And being the example and being tangible for kids to reach out to, or young people, or just seeing and saying, yo, Kelley did that, like, nah, I could do that. Just
Right.
leading by example. And just like you said, you've had the chance to have relationships with some of these greats, so
Yeah.
learning from them, and extending that information down, it's a lineage of knowledge. It's like, okay, what do you see the future of golf looking like? What does that look like in your perception?
Man, I see it. I see ownership for tournaments, right? I see it everywhere. Like I see it affected everywhere within the golf industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's fashion, whether it's players, whether it's coaching, right? Or even owning golf courses, or like facilities. Like that's what I see, right?
Yeah,
I see, of course, the player aspect, right? To where I feel that like that, kids who grow up specifically like in New York, right, would have certain acumen when it comes to the game of golf, because they know how to think, right? Especially kids who grow up like just like I did in public housing, right? Or areas in which it's basically kind of condensed, where in regards to like your living quarters, right? Because now you could see more detail into things, and that can translate into you seeing things on the golf course as well, right? And that's what I really feel is like the future of the game.
for sure, for sure. And as a um working with kids and working with youth, and
Yeah.
showing them the ropes, what does that look like? So like an introductory class to golf, like, just give us because there might be somebody that's watching right now that's like, you know what, I'm interested, but I don't know where to start. I don't know if I need to be good already. I don't know. So give us a brief synopsis of what that looks like, and kind of how the course goes along.
Okay, cool. So it's like two-tiered, right? Typically I'm working with like schools like within like New York to implement golf programming, right? And those the golf programming, it really varies depending on the school. So like that's always like customizable, right? So there's that aspect. And then in terms of adults, like we do like community events, right, where it's like we basically provide free golf instruction to the community. We're working right now with the Canarsie Merchant Association. We have a series that's called like Look at the Birds, so definitely be on the lookout for that. And that's going to be starting in June. And yeah, we'll be posting it on our social media. And then also there are cohorts that I do that really help to get you into the game, help you to build that overall like golf knowledge as well.
How do you manage it all? How do you balance between your responsibilities, between all access golf and consulting? And I know background, I've seen the NBA, and how do you balance your everyday life? What does that look like?
I mean, it's stressful. I won't lie, right? But I think it's worth it, right? Because the thing is, it's like how Gil Scott Heron says, like, the revolution won't be televised, right? And what he means is that it's really just the consciousness that's like being awakened, right? So I kind of see it as like necessary work, and that is what really keeps me like dedicated to it, right? But it is like a lot. Like I was up up until like 1-2 o'clock in the morning, and then I gotta get back up again you know, and you know, it's things like that, but you know, it's purpose, you know. So you know, regardless, you see the impact that's being made, right? And also, you know, there's something when, you know, like I see kids and like I see that the passion that they have, you know, because you know, like they're having so much fun, you know, playing the game. And I said, then I'm like, yes, like I feel like I corrupted them in a way, right? And I'm like, you know, yes, you can play this game till like you're 90, right? You got me. And then I've I've had a parent one time called me. He was like, "Yo, what'd you do, man? Like, all he wants to do is, you know, all he's talking about is golf." So I had to go over to his house, right? And I had to then gift the kid a mat as well as a putter, right? Just so that the parent could have peace, right? Because the kid loved the game so much, and I'm like, that's what I do it for.
That's it.
You know?
That's it. That's it. And that's so important. You know, it's so important when you build, you know, to love something, to do something is one thing, but to love what you do, that's a whole different level, you know. So for kids and for you to see that relationship build and grow, and for them to really grow a love for the sport and a love for learning, and you know, just getting better, you know, for them to want that all the time and to feel like I gotta have it. I want to do it. I like, if I'm not doing it right, like the consistency builds character, you know. And if you love something and you're dedicated to it, it's nothing holding you back from that greatness. Like, you're going to be great at it. You're going to, you know, succeed at it. You're going to excel in every way. So that within itself just speaks volume on you being an instructor and what you're giving, you know, and what you're pouring into them, because it's real true. What would you, I love to ask this question. What advice would you give a younger you growing up, a younger Kelley? What would you share with him right now?
Man, I think start playing golf earlier. That would be number one, right? And I think you know, don't listen to what you know, people tell you. So I remember in high school I had this teacher who said who told me that, you know, I don't really think, you know, college is cut out for you, right? And you know, I really took that personal, so much so that I remember when I got my bachelor's, right? I made it a purpose not to go, right, to the graduation. And reason why I was like, no, because like I literally was like, no, I was told that you know, like I can't. Oh, okay. Are we good now?
We good.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. So I would say, like, in general, yeah, don't accept what people try to define you as.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's what I would say.
and I speak about that often with I think we have to be very particular as adults, even in the education system, even in schools, even in, because the words you say You don't know how much that can affect somebody. You don't know how long that's gonna, you even in the quote unquote worst case, you're not there. We're not there to tear nobody down. Even if it's like, this kid is a knucklehead. I'm going, but just building that character and building like, if you get your act together, you could possibly be something. You could flip if you use your words wisely.
Right.
The things that you say can motivate somebody as opposed to like, yeah, I don't think you're gonna make it. Like it could literally be like, I see you excelling. Just if you just switch this a little bit more, you can be anything. Or, people have to think about and give people a little bit more grace and build more than we're so, ready to tear down. And so I was like, yeah, you ain't gonna be nothing when you grow up if you keep like, okay, let's build that. Let's not tear that down. Let's build on that. Let's build this kid's character. Let's build their integrity. Let's build on because what does that say about you as the role model or the teacher? If you ain't doing nothing but telling me what I'm not gonna do, we gotta do better at that. We absolutely have to do better at that. And I'm so glad and happy for you and just like this is a perfect example of look at me now. Look at me now. Look at what I'm doing now. Look at who I've become. Look at how many lives I'm changing. So that within itself, I salute you for that, and just commend you for staying steadfast in everything that you're doing. Just we got a few things, a few questions to get to before we get out of here. I want to ask you all access golf.
Yeah.
Goals, futuristic goals for the company in the upcoming years.
That's a great question. I would say more working with more schools, right? That's number one. And also, really, I would say, and I think, even though, I play the game, I've learned the game, I always feel that there's more, right? And to continue learning and like really growing in the game is, just another thing, because there's so much that could be, extracted from it, right? Absolutely. So yeah, I would say those would be like the two major things, So there's another, my fault. Yeah. But yeah, there's another and so one of the things is that we have this project, it's like an oral history project. It's called Golf Griots, right?
Yeah, I was gonna get it next. Yep, take me there.
So with Golf Griots is basically, sitting down and getting that, like understanding, right, of how, those who, are, essentially like griots, how they see the game, they talk about their life and things like that. And, that's really from, one of the things that, I really appreciated, growing up, right, was that, I didn't have a, father in the household, but there were always dudes who I could like build with, right?
Yeah.
And, like whether it be like the dudes, selling like the brothers like selling like the Final Call or anything like that, they'll be, telling me about, the knowledge of self. And then they would tell me the stuff I haven't learned in school, right?
Yeah.
That was like equally important, right?
Yes.
And I feel like, just, that, that was really, pivotal, especially in my teenage years, because, it was providing education in a different form, right? Yeah. And I think like that, Golf Griots is essentially that, just, sitting down and, like picking their brains and, like really trying to get that like understanding, right? Because when you hear their stories, you could also learn for yourself too,
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
so yeah.
Yes. What would you say is the greatest lesson that golf has taught you?
Oh, um, to really control my anger, right? And reason why, like when I was starting, like I would, cursing on the course, like swinging clubs and stuff like that, right? And it was like, well, I'm taking this out on the club, but who am I really mad at? I'm mad at me,
Yeah.
right? And then also what that does is it affects a game, for the following shots or the following holes that you have, right? So you have to really stay like even keel and not let things like fluster you, because it affects you in the future. So I think that was like just one of like the greatest lessons I've learned from playing the game.
Super dope. Super dope. Absolutely. We got a few questions that we asked everybody that I want to just jump in real quick. Who is your favorite hip hop artist?
I mean, yeah, I mentioned Jay.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. I already felt it. I already know.
Yeah. I mean, and then, Nas is definitely there, as well as Talib Kweli too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. Let's talk lyrical content. That's what we're here for. The knowledge.
Right.
The knowledge. Yes. Yes. What does Juneteenth mean to you?
So Juneteenth means like two different things, right? One, the first, it definitely means liberation, right? But then also, I think that what it means is that they will also hide information, right? If it benefits like them, right?
Yes.
So I think from that, it's always good to, continue to learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they forbid learning, around that time you couldn't even read, right?
Yep.
But it's always good to continue learning as well, right? Because that, that leads to liberation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. And lastly, I ask everybody this. What is one thing you feel you owe yourself now? Was one thing you feel you owe yourself later? And was one thing you feel you owe yourself one day?
Ooh. Okay. Now, I kind of what I owe to myself, honestly, I haven't worked out in 2 days, so I owe myself a workout. Know what I mean? That's number one.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. So that's the now.
Yeah. And then the next one is
Next one is later.
Okay, later. I think it would be really to like get some rest. Yeah, like a good sleep, right? And then in the future, I mean, I think owe it to myself. I mean, I think like pay it forward.
Yeah.
That would be yeah, owe it to myself, like what I've been
You'll
able
continue to do that because you're doing it right now. So you just
yeah, because it's like, what I've learned from my, like small amount of years in life could still, be impactful for somebody, and like that'll really keep the cycle going, right? Because then they, like just like how I've learned from those who come before, so
creating legacy, just continuing to create that legacy that you build, and that's absolutely needed, and I know I'm just from sitting across on you, I know that you're absolutely going to do that. So just continue on with the greatness. Before we wrap up, I'm going to give you a chance to give everybody your information and all of that. We have 10 vendor slots left for all of my entrepreneurs that's on the call, all of my business owners that's creating a legacy out there. We need you. 10 slots left if you want to be a vendor at the Juneteenth Festival. Please secure your spot. You have until June 1st, so that is, I believe, 2 more days. 2 more days to secure that spot. Don't miss this incredible opportunity. You can showcase everything that you got. We have some amazing perks and things for you. So make sure you check that out. Go to our website, and you can fill out the form to join us as a vendor there. And speaking of vending, of course, this is for the festival. The Juneteenth Festival is June 15th. It will be in the heart of East New York. Come on, East New York. There we go. We at Gershwin Park. Okay. June 15th. Make sure you come out, join us for the parade. It will be we'll be walking around the streets. I know we're gonna do picking, we're gonna do Pennsylvania. So you gotta come out. Make sure you register. Okay, go to our website right now, JuneteenthNYC.org/parade. You can register, sign up. It is all free. Bring out everybody you know, your friends, your family, everybody, your teams, all of that. Okay. And that wraps up my PSAs for today. Kelley, please tell us where we can follow you, where we can contact you, where we can, learn about some golf.
Yes, so it's All Access Golf, All Access Golf on Instagram. We also have a website. It's allaccessgolfllc.com. And you could also check out our YouTube channel, which is All Access Golf.
Super dope. Super dope. Make sure you follow us on everything Juneteenth NY. Make sure you go to our website, New York at NYC.org. I'm sorry. And make sure you follow me. Stay up to date with everything I got going on. That is at Forever MBG on everything. You can check that website, forevermbg.com. Make sure you check out. And people your way, because I think that this is amazing what you're doing. And I'm all here for it. Thank you for joining today. And you're welcome to come back anytime.
Definitely. Yeah, good building. Definitely good building.
Yes. That's our time until next time. Next week, y'all. Same time, same place. We out. What's going on, Juneteenth family?
I have to take the lead because if I don't now, when will I do it?
These are all dance groups, mixes from since 90.
And risks are important. Risk creates results.
Make sure that you surround yourself with not only the word, but with positivity.
Foremost, for having me on for Lunch and Learn.
We start off by wearing all of the hats. Pun intended right there. All the hats.
But we start special needs children and civilians. I have over 30 years plus experience as a quality professional.
We basically reconstructed what we took part in deconstruct. All the street maintenance. That's how we came up with street maintenance.
I almost had to deal with MCA Records at the age of 19.
Wait a
I also partner with other daycare. We're not in a competition yet. We're not in a competition.